Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan Lynn. I'm a psychic and a medium. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is part 2 of our Spirit Guides Answer Your Questions. Now, the first video was done a few days ago. Today is July 28th. So the first video I think was done on Monday. So if you haven't seen that video, you might want to check it out. I think that was July 25th. Okay. It probably would be the last video that I did. So let me get to it. And I just want to say thanks again for joining me. And here we go. By the way, what happens is I read the questions that were posted on my community page. My community page is on my main YouTube channel page. And I will put out a call for questions. And then you guys, you brilliant viewers, send me really smart, investigative questions, which I then ask my spirit guides. I do this about every 7 to 10 days. So here we go. John Reynolds, thank you for your question, says, when will we have a loving, intelligent, caring political system? Who cares about people? And he says, I know that Biden does care about people. Okay. Thank you for your question, John. We're headed that way, guys. I want to just share very briefly with you that I am picking up, and many of you are picking up, especially from the last video, that there seems to be a little bit of Nazi energy around. Particularly, I talked about Miller in the Trump administration and how he reminds me of Goebbels from the Nazi regime. I want to tell you what they told me about this because I think it's very fascinating, and I think that it would help you understand, John, that we really already are in a kinder and gentler world. Surprising, right? But listen, we didn't learn all of our lesson during the Nazi regime. We didn't learn everything we were supposed to learn. But we are seeing today, evidencing, that is not a word. I don't know why the guides want to say that, but we're seeing evidence today of how the Nazi energy has come back. But look at how it's manifesting. It's manifesting in some crooked, nasty, mean politicians that would maybe like to see the rise again of that kind of regime. But it's not happening. So the energy is coming to the surface again for us to learn this lesson once again, but it's coming up to the surface in a much less threatening way, a much less violent way, right? I mean, this is nothing like what happened in Nazi Germany. There's a flavor of it. There's energy that suggests that it's very similar. I think some of the people are reincarnated, but it's not going to happen. So in that way, I want you guys to understand that look at how far we've come. Look at how far we've come. Okay. Yes, there's still terrible, terrible things happening in the world. And I'm seeing Ukraine right now, but it's not Nazi Germany. It's not the same. It's just not. We don't ever want to go back there. But I do think that this shows us that we're not going to go back there. We're going to have another lesson, but the lesson's going to be different. And I do feel like humanity in general has come a long way in a pretty short amount of time. So I don't know. That gives me hope. I think that it helped me see how the energy, for instance, the Civil War energy that everyone is talking about that the United States is experiencing because of our astrology. Look how it's different. It's going to manifest differently, not like the Civil War. Certainly, some things are going to be similar to it. The energy certainly feels similar to it, but it's not going to be the same. So it's a lesson also to understand how energy can feel one way to us and then actually manifest in reality in a different way. So I think that's very interesting. Thank you for your question, John. Yes, we're going to get there, dear. I see look, these things that we're going through, we're making choices. Again, the guides often say, what will the humans choose? Will they choose compassion? Will they choose love over hate or even over fear? Will they choose to value humans and take care of them with proper health care and a safety net, a social safety net? You know, will we allow all boats to rise with one tide? Right? These are choices we get to make. These are choices we're making right now. And based on these choices is the life we'll have in 10 years. But I do feel hopeful. Okay, I do, as dark as it is right now, and it's a little bit dark out, it really is sort of it gets darker before the sun rises. It's never darkest than just before the sun rises. This is kind of where we are, but I have a lot of hope for where we're going. Okay, thank you for your question. Susan B. Solstice says, if the former guy, which is an acronym or a euphemism for Trump, is indicted, will he plead diminished capacity due to Alzheimer's? Will he end up in a secure mental facility? I do think he will. I don't think he'll be in a secure facility. It may be that they harden Mar-a-Lago. Basically house arrest, okay, is what I see. House arrest. Will he plead diminished capacity due to Alzheimer's? He probably will actually plead some sort of thing like that, although it would just kill him to do that. So I'm not sure he'll follow completely through with that, but he's going to be in a house arrest, okay? There's no doubt in my mind. The guides have been saying this for a year. I don't see that energy changing. There could be some ups and downs, some surprises before that, but that's where he's headed. So thank you for your question, Susan. Betty M says, ask if Trump will be charged before this year's election. She says, thank you. I really need to breathe. Well, I hope you're breathing now. Let's all take some deep breaths. Let's not hold our breath while this is going down, because there's going to be twists. There's going to be turns. There's going to be cliffhangers. There's going to be letdowns. There's going to be amazing things that we're going to cheer in the streets over. It's going to be a roller coaster. So we don't want to hold our breath while this is happening. But yes, I do think that he will be charged with something before the election. I kind of feel like they're going to do something to sort of take him out of commission to a degree. So it's not the final charge. It's not the final thing, but there is something that they slap on him that limits his international travel, which of course, just imagine all the Trumpers that we all know, if their favorite guy is not allowed to travel internationally. I mean, you're going to see a lot of pushback from that. We all know what that means, but I think they need to do that like in September, way before the election, because we can't allow this to happen so close to the election. It will really cause problems. So maybe that is what's going to happen in September, the sort of first leg. In the last video, I talked about how September and then something happens in December. One of the very brilliant viewers mentioned that in December is when we certify the vote. December 15th is when the vote is certified. So that could be the big deal that happens in December, that we have this vote in November. There is going to be sort of reprisals or uprisings. There's going to be issues around the vote, and there's going to be issues around the states certifying the vote. So when we get to December 15th to certify the vote, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be much like right after Jan 6, when they stayed through the night to certify that vote. So I hope that answers your question, and thank you for that. Jane Harris says, was the candidate for Senate against Lindsey Graham cheated out of a win by manipulating the non-Dominion voting machines? And the candidate was Jamie Harrison. So if you're watched for a few of my videos, the guide said that if you put your secret Trump decoder ring on, or Republican I'm seeing Mitch McConnell decoder ring on, then you know whatever they point at is a distraction and a projection. So you just simply turn it around the opposite direction and you have the truth. Very easy decoding. So when Lindsey Graham and Trump and all these people say that the election machines are, corrupt or being manipulated, then the guide said the truth of the matter is it's the other machines that are manipulated and corrupt. And I haven't said that very much last year, although I had that information, because it just sounds too, on the nose to say, no, it's not us, it's you, right? It's just like, but that's the truth of the matter. They told me Lindsey Graham and McConnell did not win. They did not win. All the exit polls say they didn't win. All of the polling says they didn't win. And then here they come and they win with this, pretty good margin. So yes, the answer to your question is, Jamie Harrison won that election and Lindsey Graham did not. I'm going to say for entertainment purposes only right now. Thank you for your question, Jane. Karen S. says, will Andrew Yang's newly created party drain any essential votes away from the Democrats in this fall's election? Yes, he will. He's an instrument. They're calling him an instrument, meaning he's being manipulated. He's going to be targeting those younger crowds right. So that's a perfect, it's a sort of defensive. It's a defensive move by the Republicans. So Andrew Yang kind of did well with the younger crowd. He's the one that said we should all get those payments, every month, $1,000 payment. Everybody should just get this $1,000 payment. And he's very popular with that younger crowd. So the guides have been saying that we would have this blue wave. Remember, we would have this blue wave of mostly Gen Zers, the younger people that haven't voted much or if ever. So it makes sense that the Republicans would trot Andrew Yang out as a defensive move to forestall that, or to manipulate or pick out some of those people and take them away. Yes, it is exactly what that is, which is sad because I wouldn't have voted for him, but I liked some of his platform. But it just goes to show you, basically, Andrew Yang is a cinema. He's a mansion. It just goes to show you how it's very hard sometimes in the beginning to know that these people are not on our team. You can be fooled very easily. So we all need to be as discerning as possible. Thank you for your question, Karen. Delta Dawn's Flowers says, is Matt Gaetz's adopted son really his biological son? And if so, why the pretense was the mother underage? No, Delta Dawn, this is not his adopted, this is not his real son. I have to be a little bit careful with this. It is not his real son. I know that everybody wants to kind of figure this out, and that is a likely scenario, right? But think about it. Matt Gaetz is not a parent. What about Matt Gaetz makes you think that he would humbly and generously take over the raising of his son that he had out of wedlock with a woman? This man, nothing that he's done or shown me would make me believe that he is that kind of person. There is another reason that he adopted this young man, and it's not, I can't really say it because it's inflammatory, but it has something, there's something odd about their relationship. It's not odd. It's odd because it was underage. No, there's something odd about the relationship. I'm going to leave it at that and let you draw your own conclusions. Thank you, though. Yvonne Chan, thank you for your question, says, there's a news article freshly out about Kim Jong-un, who says he's ready to fight the United States and eliminate South Korea. Could that be what Biden is worried about? And she says that none of us believe that this statement is by the real Kim Jong-un, because he's if you don't know the history of this guy kind of disappeared. A lot of us believe that he's not really in charge of North Korea, that he's kind of being held in some other kind of state of consciousness or held captive, and his sister's really running the show. And also, if you watch the first video, you'll see that when I tapped into Biden's energy, he was worried about North Korea. So this is why I have questions regarding North Korea. This is bluster and posturing, as the guides are saying. He actually doesn't have. They're showing me how when Russia went to war with Ukraine, a lot of their planes didn't have the proper maintenance done on them. Their planes didn't even have the proper equipment. There's credible evidence that shows that some of those planes didn't have proper GPS. So my point being that these countries like this, you can't trust. They don't really have the military superpower they say they do. Okay. I don't trust it in a second that they really have the capacity to do the harm they say they can do. I don't believe that. Number one. Number two, when I go into North Korea, I see a submarine. I feel like Biden is worried about this submarine. This submarine is doing things that are it's a nuclear powered submarine. And the submarine is doing things that Biden feels is very irresponsible. I feel that it is maneuvering through waters that are full of fishing boats, like Chinese fishing boats. I mean, and I'm not talking about little fishing boats. I'm talking about big fishing boats, big. And if it collided with one of these fishing boats, there could be a nuclear accident. That's what I feel like is happening. That's what I feel like Biden is worried about. It's very irresponsible. It's not professional. It's not responsible. It's haphazard. I hear Biden say, this is haphazard and it's going to cause some problems. The problem is that when the United States sends our submarines or fleet to that, to intercept them, we're very limited because they're kind of, it's almost like they're not kamikaze. I mean, it's not a suicide mission, but they're being so haphazard that it could very easily be a suicide mission. They're not trained. They're not responsible. I mean, Biden is really upset about this. So that's kind of what it is. Now, this blustering by North Korea matches China's blustering about Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, I think it is. Everybody is just rattling their sabers because they want this news to get out so that the Republicans can then say the United States has no reason to be involved in Ukraine, or no reason to be involved in Taiwan, or no reason to be involved. You know what I mean? It's just propaganda, and it's meant to jar Americans. It's meant to make the Americans worry about nuclear annihilation. Whenever Americans worry and are in fear, they tend to, I can't get the word. It's not navigate, but it's some other word they're using. They tend to go towards the Republicans. The Republicans rule in fear and by fear. So with North Korea scaring us and scaring American citizens like this, it makes Biden look bad too. It makes Biden look like he can't keep us safe. So now you can see a bigger picture, right? Don't fall into this fear mongering, because that's all that this is. They don't have whatever it is that they say they have. They really don't. Now, could they cause a nuclear problem because their runs into a fishing vessel and some of the Pacific has a nuclear fallout, yeah, that could happen. But it's not the same kind of, it's not an attack. It's a accidental thing that happens due to unregulated, haphazard, unprofessional sailors. Okay, for military. Whew. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Okay, so here we go. Google Peace says, let me back up. I don't want to make light of you guys' worries. Okay. I don't want to make light of that. I don't want to say that anybody shouldn't have a reason to be worried. The guides give this information in a no nonsense, not emotional tone because they don't have any emotion. That's why they don't care if people think that, the guides are wrong when this is the energy. I'm just reading the energy. It is what it is. It's not emotional. Okay. Let me move on. Google Peace says, did the select committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol obtain evidence of the planners and builders of the hangman's noose and gallows on the morning of the incited riot at the National Mall in Washington, D.C.? Did the select committee to investigate, okay, did the select committee obtain evidence of the planners and the builders of the hangman's noose? So you've got a lot of questions within there because the planners might not be the builders and blah, 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 of the hangman's noose and gallows on the morning of the incited riot. Did the select committee obtain evidence? Yes, they know who it is. It's, it was done by a militia. They have this information. I mean, they have this information. It's known to them. There are no doubts, and meaning that this person, a person with information regarding this has come clean, has given their testimony. These people were part of the militia. I don't know which militia. I mean, I'm hearing the Proud Boys. It was one of the militias. Okay. Thank you for your question. Does that answer your question? Okay. Thank you. So 5 Paces says, this is a super long question, but I wanted to read it because I wanted to talk about one thing. 5 Paces says that they've been told by police officers and military personnel that they have been trying for quite a while to cause a race war. Now, this is why I wanted to read this, because this is true. My guides say this is how they want to get this done, is they want to cause a race war. They keep trying to, drag people out into this, riots. 5 Paces goes on to say, we can see the evidence. We can see that the violence against black people and other people of color is constantly in the news. Why are they training to go from house to house if it wasn't to murder entire households? Oh God, that's terrible. This ideology applies to sympathizers also. Okay. The question is, will we choose the light or not? If not, 20 by 24 and beyond, it will be a terrible time. No, we're choosing the light right now, guys. This is the point that I made in the very beginning of the video. But I do want to say to you guys that there is going to be added more pressure on people of color. Okay? And I want to say this to you guys, because I think like 90% of my viewers are white. I have a pretty good, viewership of other, of people of color. But I want all of us white people to hear this. Black people and people of color do not feel safe. They do not feel comfortable. This is getting very uncomfortable for them. You're not going to know this because you're white. I can walk to Walmart. I can walk into somebody's home I don't know. I can walk into somebody's yard I don't know and retrieve something that is mine, that maybe I threw a ball for my dog and it ended up in somebody else's yard. Black people and people of color do not feel this safe. And Hispanics, I'm not even going to tell you the stories, but I've personally had a Hispanic neighbor come to me and say they don't feel comfortable. They were going to move, rent a house 1 block away, closer to me, but they didn't feel comfortable with one of my neighbors. This neighbor doesn't have flags. This neighbor doesn't have Trumper flags. He doesn't have any flags. He has a really, really loud, obnoxious, loud pickup truck, and he's an older white dude. And just based on this Hispanic friend of mine is saying, I don't want to be down there by you. Okay, so I just want you guys to hear this. All my white friends, please know this. Please try to understand this, because as we go into the fall, there are going to be more attacks on anybody who's not white. And anybody, and I've said this before, this is why I have a pretty good viewership of other races, because I say these things. You could be coming out of a mosque. Doesn't matter. You know, if you walk to Walmart, nobody might know. But if you're coming out of a mosque, people know. If you're coming out of a synagogue, people know. If you're coming out of a gay bar, people know. Okay, but the rest of the time you might be able to pass as not Jewish or not Arab or whatever it is, right? People of color can't pass. We need to be there for them. We need to be allies. We need to film anything you see. And if you see something, say something. Be an ally, okay? That's the whole reason why I wanted to read that, that question. But yes, it is. We are seeing the light darkest before the dawn. It's going to get kind of dark out there, you guys. That's why we all need to be allies to each other. Link arms together. We're stronger together. But the light is coming, okay? Let me just pause this for a minute. Okay, New England nomad Rick Wilson of the Lincoln Project tweeted today that if Trump loses the 2024 Republican primary, that he will run as an independent. What do my guides say about this? I think it's fascinating that you guys read between the lines here. Why is Trump running as an independent? That's the big story here to me. Why isn't he running as a Republican? Because the Republicans don't want him. Even his fan base is now coming out and saying, we love him, but he can't win, so we don't want him to run. They know he's not electable. They haven't fallen out of love with him. They're still sending him money, but they know he's not electable. That to me is the big story here. But he can run as Donald Duck. I don't care. He's not going to win. He's not even going to run. He's not going to run. I've been saying this for almost a year and a half now. He's going to be in his little baby pajamas, with the nurse that tells him whatever he wants to know, you know, like, you're president. Yes, you're still president. Yes, that Biden is a bad man. Yes, that he's going to be basically under house arrest in satin pajamas. And I'm telling you, in the next 6 months, not 2 years from now, he's not even probably going to be on this planet. So I'm not really worried about him. I think the big thing there is to understand there's been a shift in the Republican Party away from Donald Trump. Thank you for that question. And New England Nomad has a couple of other really good questions. I'm going to read them. Will North Carolina go blue in 2024? 2024. I feel like, I mean, does 3/4 count? I mean, what does blue mean? Does that mean that every single, like the governor, both the House and the Senate, everything is completely supermajority? I don't see that, but I see 3/4 blue. I see 3/4 blue. I mean, that's pretty good. Another question is, will AOC run for president in 2028? I don't see AOC running for president. I see her being somebody's vice president pick. I see her on somebody's ticket. 24, 28, 24, 28. Yeah, I think there's really good energy that she could be on someone's ticket in 2028. Let's see. Another question is, I've seen news that Phoenix, Arizona might be too hot to live in by 2060. Will people move to cooler cities and the shuffle demographics drastically? Yes. If you watch my channeled message from Ra, listen, it's inevitable. The planet is heating up. The seas are heating up. The glaciers are melting. I mean, this is science. I'm not telling you anything new. Absolutely. We are going to be moving. We're going to be migrating. And again, the guides show me the Dust Bowl from the 30s. A lot of those people had to leave that area. Remember the gold rush. How many ghost towns are there from the gold rush that people rushed in? They whatever they did, they mined the gold, they mined the silver. When that dried up, they left. This is we're migratory people. Okay, we're really migratory people. We will migrate for our own safety. So absolutely, that is likely to happen. Another question is, will this November be Nancy Pelosi's last term? I do believe so. I do think that this is her last hurrah. I have gotten that message many times over the past 6 or 8 months. So yes, I do think she can leave on a high note. I mean, this January 6th committee, she's really kind of proven herself and written her own spot in history very nicely. Now, nobody wants to give up power. Nobody wants to go back to living like a regular person. So it's hard. We often think that we are the leaders, and without us, that it just can't be done. And it's very hard to give up that kind of the reins of that kind of leadership when you've done it for decades. It's going to be hard for her, but yes, I have heard this. Another question is there a Senate seat that seems like a lost cause, but the Democrats will flip blue? I get Luke Mixon in Louisiana, but I will tell you that there's going to be 2 or 3. And that is because of the shock and awe, you know, the things we're going to learn, the, how do they say, what are they saying? Guilty by association. So maybe these people aren't guilty. Maybe we can't slap a crime on them, but guilty enough by association that some of them will lose. I mean, voters will not vote for them. So there is that to look forward to, in my opinion. Thank you for those questions, New England Nomad. They were really good. All right, Zolatina. I don't know what your name is, but it's pretty interesting. Thank you for your question. If many congressmen were involved in the Jan 6 insurrection, wouldn't it become a national security threat for USA to indict and arrest so many GOP at the same time? This is what keeps Biden awake at night. This is what keeps the DOJ, all those entities that I often talk about. They go on to say, would our enemies see us being weak right now and think, isn't that a consideration of DOJ? Yes, absolutely. That's why, and I've said this in videos, you can't throw our past, most recent president in prison and lock up 5 or 6 GOP, and maybe there's a Dem in there, I don't know, people, senators and House of Representatives, and even judges. I mean, it would destabilize us. Now, I know you guys are always saying, and I've got a question in here that I've put in here. You guys are always saying, how can the spirit guides say that? This isn't the spirit guides. I'm reading the energy of the DOJ. I'm reading the energy of Biden. I'm reading the energy of these career stateswomen. They believe this. It's not my belief. You know what? I say lock them all up tomorrow and have special elections. That's what Susan believes. Let's lock them all up tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let's have special elections next week and let's get it done. This is why I tell you guys, call 1-800-SPIRIT Guides. It's not my beliefs. It's the beliefs of these career politicians. Maybe they're wrong. They quite possibly could be wrong, but that's what the energy suggests. Okay. So I agree. And I think that, and I said this before, conversely, the energy of these career politicians is like, no, remember that picture that they used to show me? There's a boiling pot and the lid is going pop, 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 just like a boiling pot. And Biden has got his hands on the pot. And he's like, no, I can't let this overflow. And the pot kind of overflows anyway. That is what's happening right now. There are other energies pushing for this stuff to be public. So I do think that despite whatever these career politicians want, I think that we're going to know more than they want us to know. We're going to learn more than they want us to know. We may not learn everything. I don't think we're going to learn everything, but I think we're going to learn a lot. And that is why some of these senators and Congress people are going to be guilty by association. And that's why we're going to have more flipped houses for blue than we would otherwise. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Chris Piazza says, hi, Susan. Hi, Chris. Italy will be having an election in September. The far right candidate, Giorgia Meloni, is being compared to Mussolini. Good Lord. And it's a woman. Why are these women? What is it with like Marine Le Pen? You know, her political party called Brothers of Italy is like Trump and the MAGAs here. If they win, they could destabilize the EU. Could you read on this? Yes. This is destabilizing the EU. It's already destabilizing the EU because France, you know, Le Pen almost won, you know, and the guy that's in there now is not great. There's people in Germany that are very pro-Nazi. I mean, the EU in general is sort of struggling with the same thing that the United States is struggling with. And the same thing that Ukraine is struggling with. It's this fight between light and dark. But I will say, I don't see her winning in Italy. It doesn't mean that Italy doesn't have work to do. It does not mean that there's still factions there. There's still ideology. There's still people there who want this authoritarian type of government. It's alive. This energy is alive throughout the world right now. And again, the guides would say, what will the people choose? Will we choose compassion and love for each other, or will we choose to control each other and make profit off of each other? It's up to us what we want. Okay. Thank you for your question, though. I appreciate it. Dusty Rose, good to see you, dear, says, was Ivana Trump murdered? If so, by whom and why? Now, I kind of have a different take on this than some of the other psychics, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, who knows? I do not feel that her death was natural. I'll say that. They're showing me that blunt force trauma to something, right? Weren't there differing opinions about what happened to her? Like they said this happened and then this happened. Anyway, guys, it wasn't natural. She needed to be removed. She wasn't trustworthy. They couldn't trust her. They couldn't, honestly, she wasn't going to go to the authorities. She wasn't going to say anything, but she knew too much. And that they couldn't take that chance. The former guy, you know who I'm talking about, 45. He knew about it. He didn't order it. He did not order it, but he knew about it. To be honest with you, he had just a little glimmer, like a tiny little glimmer of compassion that, he was like, oh, that's too bad. But then he was like, well, that's what happens. Listen, in this world, and I'm talking about the MOB and the RUSSIA MOB, this is what happens. People disappear. They're showing me right now two of the former guys, executives that died on that plane crash, like in the 80s. Things happen, folks. You might fall down and it might be fatal. Look, and what I just said was you might fall down and it might be fatal, and she fell downstairs, right? I didn't even put that together until they said that. I think you can figure out who I think did it by what I just said. Thank you, Dusty. Healer Jules says, were the pardoned Blackwater guys in on 1/6? Now Blackwater's changed its name, but this is Betsy DeVos's, and Cindy P follows up that question with another question. Cindy P says, Eric Prince, which is Betsy DeVos's brother. Betsy DeVos was the Secretary of Education, which is just like making me, the secretary of, putting me in charge of all the pizza I could eat. You know what I mean? Not a good idea. I'm not qualified, but I will eat all the pizza I can. So anyway, Betsy DeVos's brother owns the group Blackwater. I bet they trained some of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys who are involved in Jan 6. Yes. Yes, the Blackwater, or whoever they're named now, I can't remember their name. Interesting that they changed their names and they divested that group from the DeVos family fortune. I mean, that's telling in and of itself, right? They wanted to make sure that the actions of this group couldn't come back and they could be sued for their actions of this other group. Yes, they were involved. They've been involved. They are involved. There's other groups involved. It's not just them. There's other. I don't understand that. There's other insurgency groups involved. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Thank you for your question. Zucker Rye says, okay, here's another long question. The question is, the IRS chairman, Charles Rettig, who was appointed by Trump, who's still there, is currently being questioned by senators about the suspicious audits of James Comey and Andrew McCabe. They're wondering what might happen to this. And it also made them wonder about the status of Trump's long and ongoing $73 million tax battle with the IRS. Gosh, it came and it went. It's a distraction. It's actually a distraction and a diversion. But it's also a witch hunt, to use a term that 45 likes to use himself. It's fodder for their base. Whenever they can come out with a headline like that, Trump appointed IRS chairman investigating James Comey, send us $20, basically. Okay. It's red meat for the base is what it is. And as far as Trump's thing, you may have missed this because it was just one line, but in the last video, the guides mentioned the IRS as being one of the entities. They said Fani Willis, they said the IRS, and they said Tish James. That's who they said were likely going to take Trump down. So the IRS was back in the mix, and I have not said that until last week. So new information about that, in my opinion. Okay. Thank you for your question. That's fascinating. A Cross says, I've been wondering lately, why are the authoritarians so threatened by LGBTQ plus community? Do my guides have any insights on that? I would just tell you, it's not, well, the authoritarians want to control everybody. But I would tell you that there are many LGBTQ community in the authoritarian regime. They're showing me Hitler. Wasn't one of Hitler's people gay, or there was something about a gay, some kind of energy around Hitler or one of his people. So it's not that they're against LGBTQ. What it is the Republican, these MAGA people who used to be Reagan people, who used to be HW people, right? All these Republican people are against LGBTQ. Those people are against LGBTQ. Whenever they poll those people, that particular thing on the poll scores high. Let me just tell you that it's a breadwinner. Whenever they come out against LGBTQ people, it polls high and money flows in. So that's why they keep, using it. It makes money for them. Now, why are their people afraid of the LGBTQ community? It's been, okay, hopefully you can hear me when I say this, and this is the guide's opinion, this is the energy. So it's the only minority that they can pick on, that they've been able to pick on. So until recently, it was illegal. Some of the practices, in the gay community were illegal, right? To have sodomy was illegal. Also, it was illegal to be in the military. So until just recently, you could pick on them. I mean, there were laws against, that community. So it's easy for them to be a foil. You just can't come out publicly against people of color, but you can come out publicly against LGBTQ. So that's why. Does that make sense? You can't come out publicly against Jewish people. You can't really fundraise on that, but you can on gay, lesbian, blah, blah, blah. Okay? That's why. I hope this makes sense. You guys may have to connect the dots a little bit on your own. Okay, life as a mindset, Lorraine says, do my spirit guides see any violence at the polls, at the voting polls? Yes, I do see violence at the poll. I think I've said this before. I see intimidation for sure. What does that look like? Well, the KKK in full regalia. I've personally seen that at a poll in Texas when Obama was running for the very first time. I've personally seen that. That is intimidation, and it works. It really works. Nobody wants trouble. So again, intimidation could also be people wearing arms, heavy arms, standing around within the legal limit, the legal distance to the poll. That's intimidation. I do see violence. I do see it. I've said it before. I do see it. It's not going to stop us from voting. And I would tell all of you guys to vote early. Why are we waiting until the voting day to vote? Why? For the love of God, vote early. Vote on your lunch break. Take a day off from work. Do whatever you have to do to vote early. Okay? And then also be a poll worker. Be a poll watcher. Show up on the day of election after having successfully voted early, and bring your cell phone and be somewhere safe and record what happens. Link our arms together. We're stronger together. Thank you for your question. She also asked about Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a low security prison in Florida. Sounds fishy. That's Epstein's old stomping grounds prison. It is a little fishy, to be honest with you. When I go into the energy, I don't like it. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like that it's a low security prison. Something could happen to her. Something is going to happen to her. I don't know that it's going to be fatal what happens to her, but I do think that somebody is, there's a move, a play has been made on the chessboard. Somebody has moved a chess piece. Now, I have said this before, maybe you haven't seen the video, that some of these people, like Maxwell, she's no dummy. She's got redundancy, meaning that she has things that are very damning, and I mean very damning, that are set up like a tripwire. If something happens to her, the tripwire is tripped and this stuff gets disseminated. Okay? Now, this is one of those process moments. The people that would want her to disappear, and there are many, know about some of these tripwires. Okay? So they've neutralized some of these people that would be a tripwire. For instance, something happens to me, this person knows to hit this button, and once this button is hit, boom, all of this data goes out to every single news source throughout the world. Not in America, because America is owned by 3 people, but I'm talking about Al Jazeera, I'm talking about BBC, I'm talking about other news agencies, so that if you see the same thing in 3 different news agencies that are worldwide, you can trust it. I mean, that's how I feel anyway. So these people feel like they've neutralized some of those tripwires, and they feel like they can put her at risk. But what they showed me just now, which is new to me, is there's a hacker. There's a couple of like young hacker people. There's a woman or a young lady who's like 19, and there's a man who's like 23. I keep wanting to say boy and girl because when I see the pictures of them, they look like kids, but she's like 19, he's like 23. Honestly, they look like they're 16, but whatever. These people are not known to, they're not known to these people that would do her harm. And when I say a chess move has been moved, now Maxwell can move her own chess piece. Now she can say, okay, you've neutralized these people, and I know that. That's one of her chess moves. Then she can move again and say, I checkmate you because I have 2 more people that you don't know about that are going to disseminate this information. She contacts that hacker. The hacker sends the information not to one person who's trying to do her in, but perhaps 5. And honestly, some of these people that want to do her in are actually governments. And I would like to tell you they're governments that are democratic governments. Now, this is a good time for me to tell you that people always say, why are you giving away so much information? Why would you put this out for thousands of people to see and hear and know about? If I'm not supposed to give it to you, the guides tell me. And if you've watched me long enough, you'll see me say that I'm not supposed to tell you, or I'll say something like, I'm just going to leave it at that. That is my way of telling you that I know more, but I can't tell you. So if I'm telling you, rest assured, it's okay to tell you. Okay. That was a brilliant, I love those questions that give me more information than the question asked for, or I learned something new. I think that's fascinating. And I hope that these continue to happen towards the end of the video, so you Gold Star watchers get more information than the people who check out after the first 10 minutes, because they don't want to know anyway. Karen Karen Ettinger, good to see you, dear, says the pilfering of the PPP program, which is that program during COVID that people got loans and got forgiven. I have a friend who got a $20,000 loan and it was forgiven. Imagine that. And I know people that got $80,000, $100,000 loans forgiven, but yet we can't forgive student loans. Doesn't that make you wonder? Anyway, I had to take a deep breath because Susan has to get back out of the picture. Okay. The pilfering of the PPP program by Trump, Kushner, and Mnuchin seems to be off everyone's radar screen. Will they ever be held accountable for that? Talk about the fox guarding the hen house. You're so true. You're so right on, Karen. Pilfering. The guides want to talk about, there are some people that are going to be held accountable. So your loan was forgiven. I think if it was under a certain amount of money, they're not going to really investigate you. Now, if you get audited for something else and you took a PPP loan and you laid off your employees, or you didn't even have employees, then you're probably going to be on the hook for that money. Now, if you're never audited, it's yours. Now, if you are right, like they're showing me that guy, wasn't there a country music singer, or there was some big singer, there was some big celebrity who took a huge loan and they're being investigated. So these people are going to be investigated. We have to get through this election cycle into next year. We'll have a new head of the IRS. We'll have perhaps even a special investigator that's going to investigate the PPP, the misuse of the PPP money. So yes, I do think that we're going to do that. Now, whether or not Trump, Kushner, or Mnuchin really goes down for that, I don't think so. I don't see that being, they could be investigated. They could get a fine, but I don't see them being jailed for that. With the exception of Mnuchin, there's energy around Mnuchin. He's done something that could be considered really criminal. I hope that makes sense, Karen. Thank you. Pearl Girl says, how much influence will the Mothers Against Abbott and Texas Paul have in the governor's race? Now, Texas Paul is this guy who Midas Touch has been kind of promoting. He's sort of like a country guy, basically a typical Texan who has liberal views, who's a Democrat. So it's kind of like Midas Touch is employing some other people to go up against. I think the thought is that if people see this guy, Texas Paul, and he looks like them, they may start being swayed to his way of thinking. So yes, I do think the Mothers Against Abbott are really coming out strong. They're also part of that divine feminine energy. So yes, I do think they're going to have a pretty big impact on the race, a pretty big, not 50%, but a sizable percentage, something that they could then track and say, yes, we brought you 20%. There's going to be some metric that they can track, that they're going to show that, yes, they had an impact. Thank you for your question. Sheila Matthews says, it's another Texas question about, which this is all across America. It's not just Texas. There's a CNN documentary that says Deep in the Pockets of Texas that explained how two East Texas millionaires who happen to be crazy religious zealots literally paid off Republican officials to have control of them. Ted Cruz is owned by them, and as are most Republican elected officials. They believe they are chosen by God and are doing his will. It was scary and nauseating. This new sect, I want to call it a sect. It's this religious nationalism is now becoming a thing across the country. They are seeking to control these candidates and these elected officials. yeah, there's light for us, guys. It's not, this is, we're seeing, you know, we're really seeing how bad it is. And it is nauseating. It's nauseating, right? To see how terrible everything is. But this is what happens when the light is shined down on bad things. You get to see it. This is actually a product of increased light. So if you think about it like that, there's actually more light shining down. There's more light helping us. And then we get to choose. Do we want this? Do we don't want this? Do we want this? Do we not want this? We're going to make better choices. We are going to the light. We are choosing those things. It might be a little up and down, just like the guides have been saying, but we are choosing those things. Angel Wing says, has Mike Pence given evidence to the AG office? I think this is a fascinating question. Has Mike Pence given evidence? I mean, evidence, that's a strong word. It's a specific word. To the AG office. Mike Pence given evidence, yes. He's preparing it right now. Yep, he's preparing it. This goes back to that question earlier about that Trump is going to run as an independent. The Republicans are abandoning him. The Republicans are abandoning Trump. This is Mike Pence abandoning Trump. Mike Pence is preparing documents and evidence to give to the AG's office right now. Because if he doesn't do it, he looks guilty by association. Remember what the guide said earlier in this video. Some of these people are going to lose their race because they're guilty by association. Mike Pence needs to clean up his association with Trump. You're going to see this more and more frequently. These people are going to have to cut ties with Trump, and they're going to have to say, no, I don't agree. Here's how I didn't agree. Here's what proves that I didn't agree. Here's how you can know that I'm not guilty like Trump. So I think that is fascinating. I just want to say the last question I think will be, well, I guess if you guys want to watch, you can watch. But Daniel, let's just be on a first name basis because I can't pronounce your last name and I see you often. So hi, Daniel. Good to meet you. Daniel asked, will Ron Johnson lose his Senate seat? I heard yes, and then I heard no. I think it's very likely that he's going to lose his Senate seat. It must be neck and neck. But again, you guys need to understand that between now, which is late July, and late October, basically all hell's going to break loose. People are going to be guilty. People are going to be guilty by association. The landscape is going to change dramatically. So these Senate seats or these seats that seem safe are no longer going to be safe when it gets to October. Okay? Lots of big changes. Upsets, lots of upsets. Rebecca Davis says, did Justice Thomas with Eastman or by himself ever talk to Pence and pressure him to go along with the fake elector scheme? If so, will this ever come out publicly? Very interesting. Well, did Justice Thomas, along with Eastman or by himself, ever talk to Pence and pressure him to go along? Justice Thomas did not, but guess who did? One guess, two guesses, three guesses, and Ginny Thomas. Ginny Thomas did. Through a surrogate. Okay, through a surrogate. Ginny Thomas called and badgered Pence's communications aide, somebody who does his communications. You know, the gatekeeper, the person that, you know, lets people in or keeps people out. Well, Pence kept Jenny out because she wanted to have access to him, and he put a gate up. But it can be proven. There is proof that Jenny Thomas tried to get to Pence. And I will also say that Eastman, they just said to me, Eastman is going down. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be in jail per se, but he's going down. His reputation will be history. He will be history. He's going to be a shadow of him, of what he was. Who's Trump's attorney who was just out, who was just testifying before Jan 6? That guy has seen what's going to happen to Eastman, and that's why he's testifying before Jan 6. He knows Eastman's going down, and therefore he's trying to, you know, do what he can to keep himself from going down that same route. So, yes, absolutely. Yes, Jenny Thomas is involved in that. And I've often said, I see Jenny Thomas and Clarence Thomas, he's going to step down from the court. She's still going to be involved with all her quackery that she's involved with. But she's not going to have a firewall. They're showing me a firewall. The remaining Republicans that survived this massacre, so to speak, will put up a firewall between her and them because she's radioactive. Again, there's that energy of radioactivity, of being radioactive. They talked about in the last video. So I think I'm going to call it there. My dog is asking me to do something. I think I'm going to end this video there. Gold stars. I'm going to make it rain gold stars right now. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I hope this video gave you some new information, maybe some new insights. Perhaps you can read between the lines for what the guides are saying, and you can even connect some dots yourself between this video and previous videos, because I'm starting to do that. Because I'm channeling this, I don't really know what I just said. I do watch the videos after I do them, but that's primarily just to make sure that the video didn't stop recording in the middle or something crazy didn't happen. I don't watch the videos and I feel like I want to watch them and take notes. I actually feel like I want to play the video and then be on YouTube and do a live and say, you know, and kind of figure it out, because there's so much to figure out here. There's so much more depth if you'll dive into what they're saying, and try not to get your personality, try not to get your own emotions involved, because when our emotions get involved, that's when you're missing a whole bunch of this. If you really want to see how this is going to go down, you have to be an observer, because when you're in the observer mode, you can see all the truth. When you have emotional connection to it, you're not going to see all the truth because you're blinded, because you want this outcome. If you want a certain outcome, you're not going to be privy to a lot of this other information. You're just basically cutting off this information. So try to step back and be an observer in this process, and don't use this tunnel vision of I need to have this outcome. Let's open it up so we can really see what's happening here. You'll be better informed, and I think you'll feel better too, because you will have relinquished having some sort of outcome be the only way that can happen. Thanks for joining me. Please subscribe, like, share, all those things. Many blessings to you. I'll talk to you again soon, right here on this channel. Take good care.